Sometimes the people closest to you know exactly how to hurt you the most, and sometimes they know exactly how to save you. You know that feeling when something just doesn't add up, when every instinct you have is screaming that you're being lied to, but you can't quite put your finger on what's wrong. That's exactly where I found myself 6 months ago, sitting in a sterile conference room across from my ex-wife Melissa and her shark of a lawyer. We'd been married for 12 years. 12 years of building what I thought was a life together, a future, a partnership. I'm a software engineer, I make decent money, but I'm not rich. Melissa worked in marketing for a pharmaceutical company. Together, we lived comfortably in suburban Minneapolis, nothing flashy, just a normal middle-class life, or so I thought. The divorce wasn't my idea. Melissa came home one Tuesday evening in March and announced she was done. No discussion, no counseling, no trying to work things out. I'd already hired a lawyer and filed the papers. After 12 years, I got a 15-minute conversation and a manila envelope. "I'm just not happy anymore," she said, not even looking at me. "We've grown apart. I'll spare you the details of those first few weeks. The shock, the hurt, the desperate attempts to understand what had gone wrong. But eventually you have to face reality and protect yourself. So I hired my own lawyer, Patricia Chen, and we started the process. That's when things got weird. During our first settlement meeting, Melissa's financial disclosure seemed off. According to her paperwork, she was making $42,000 a year at her marketing job. Her savings account showed $8,000. Her 401k had about $15,000. She claimed no other assets besides her personal belongings and her car. But here's the thing, I knew our finances. I'd been handling most of our bills and investments throughout our marriage. Just 2 years ago, Melissa had inherited money from her grandmother, not a fortune but a decent amount, around $60,000. She'd been excited about it, talking about investment opportunities and maybe buying a rental property. Where was that money now? When I asked Patricia about it, she said inheritance could be considered separate property depending on how it was handled. But Melissa wasn't even claiming it existed. According to her disclosure, that $60,000 had simply vanished. Maybe she spent it, Patricia suggested. On what though? Our lifestyle hadn't changed. We drove the same cars, lived in the same house, took maybe one vacation a year. $60,000 doesn't just disappear without a trace. That's when I called my friend Alex Rodriguez, and I went to college together. While I went into software, he became a forensic accountant. Think CSI but for financial crimes. He works with law firms, insurance companies, and divorce attorneys to track down hidden assets and financial fraud. He's scary good at what he does. "I need a favor," I told him over beers one Friday night. "I think my ex-wife is hiding money." Alex leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You sure about this? Because once we start digging, we might find things you don't want to know." I'm sure. What Alex found over the next 3 weeks changed everything. Melissa hadn't just hidden her grandmother's inheritance, she'd been systematically moving money out of our joint accounts for over 2 years. Small amounts at first, then larger ones as we got closer to the divorce. She'd opened accounts at 3 different banks under her maiden name. She'd also been freelance consulting for pharmaceutical companies on the side, income she never reported to me or apparently to the IRS. But the real kicker, she'd been using her marketing position to get inside information about drug trials and FDA approvals, then trading pharmaceutical stocks based on that information. It's called insider trading, and it's a federal crime. The hidden assets totaled just over $2 million. $2 million. My ex-wife, who claimed she was barely scraping by on her $42,000 salary, had been sitting on $2 million in hidden assets. Alex presented his findings to Patricia, who immediately requested an emergency hearing. The judge, Honorable Margaret Walsh, was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who'd been handling family law cases for over 20 years. She'd seen every trick in the book. Hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in late June. I remember everything about that day, the way the courthouse smelled like floor wax and anxiety, the click of Melissa's heels on the marble floor as she walked in with her attorney, the confident smirk on her face when she saw me sitting at the plaintiff's table. She thought she'd won. She thought she was going to walk away with half of everything we'd built together while keeping her secret fortune hidden away. Patricia stood up when Judge Walsh called our case. "Your Honor, we have significant evidence that the defendant has failed to disclose substantial assets in her financial statement." Melissa's lawyer, a guy named Brandon Pierce who looked like he bought his suits with his law degree, jumped up immediately. "Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Thompson has provided complete and accurate financial disclosure as required by law." Judge Walsh looked tired. "What kind of evidence are we talking about, counselor?" Patricia nodded to Alex, who was sitting in the gallery. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Alex Rodriguez as an expert witness. He's a certified forensic accountant who's conducted an independent investigation into Mrs. Thompson's finances." The color drained from Melissa's face. She leaned over and whispered something urgent to Pierce, who looked like he'd just swallowed a bug. Alex was sworn in and took the witness stand. For the next 20 minutes he methodically laid out his findings, bank account numbers, transaction records, tax documents, trading statements. He had everything. Judge Walsh's expression changed from tired frustration to sharp attention to barely contained anger as Alex presented his evidence. When he mentioned the insider trading, she actually sat forward in her chair. "Mr. Rodriguez," she said, "are you telling this court that Mrs. Thompson has been engaging in securities fraud?" "Yes, Your Honor." Based on the timing of her trades and her access to non-public information through her employment, that appears to be the case. Pierce was frantically whispering to Melissa, who had gone completely pale. She kept shaking her head and gesturing, but he looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Judge Walsh turned to Melissa. Mrs. Thompson, you're under oath. Do you wish to amend your financial disclosure at this time? Melissa stood up slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. Your Honor, I need to invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The courtroom went dead silent. Judge Walsh stared at her for what felt like an eternity. Then she looked at Pierce. Counselor, I'm going to give you exactly 10 minutes to confer with your client. When we come back, I want a complete and accurate financial disclosure, or I'm going to hold Mrs. Thompson in contempt of court and refer this matter to the district attorney's office. During the recess, I sat with Patricia and Alex in the hallway. I felt numb. 12 years of marriage and I'd been living with a stranger. How did you find all this? I asked Alex. He shrugged. Digital footprints. People think they can hide money, but everything leaves a trail these days. Bank transfers, IP addresses, email records, credit reports. Once you know what to look for, it's just connecting the dots. When we returned to the courtroom, Melissa looked like she'd been crying. Pierce stood up with a thick folder in his hands. Your Honor, my client wishes to provide an amended financial disclosure. Judge Walsh accepted the folder and spent several minutes reviewing it. Her jaw got tighter with each page she turned. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Thompson, according to this amended disclosure, you have approximately $2.1 million in assets that you failed to report in your original filing. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you're aware that providing false information to this court is perjury? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Walsh set the papers down and folded her hands. Mrs. Thompson, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I have never seen such a blatant attempt to defraud both this court and your former husband. Not only did you hide substantial assets, but you appear to have committed federal securities violations in accumulating them. She turned to me. Mr. Thompson, given the circumstances of this case and your ex-wife's conduct, I'm awarding you 75% of all marital assets, including the previously undisclosed accounts. Mrs. Thompson, you'll receive 25% of the legitimate marital assets only. None of the money obtained through illegal trading will be considered marital property that will be frozen pending a criminal investigation. Melissa started crying. Pierce looked like he wanted to disappear, but Judge Walsh wasn't finished. Furthermore, Mrs. Thompson, I'm sanctioning you $50,000 for contempt of court and referring this matter to both the Securities and Exchange Commission and the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that seemed to echo forever. As we walked out of the courthouse that day, Alex put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I honestly didn't know. Part of me felt vindicated, justice had been served, but mostly I just felt empty. The woman I'd loved and trusted for 12 years had been lying to me, stealing from me, and committing crimes the entire time. At least now you know the truth, Patricia said as we reached the parking garage. And you'll be financially secure. She was right. After the dust settled, I ended up with our house, most of our savings, and about $400,000 from the legitimate investments we'd made together. Not rich, but comfortable enough to start over. Melissa was charged with insider trading and tax evasion 3 months later. She pled guilty and got 18 months in federal prison plus 5 years probation. She also had to pay back taxes and penalties on all the unreported income. I never spoke to her again after that day in court. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say. These days I'm doing okay. I sold the house, too many memories, and bought a smaller place across town. I'm dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher named Amy who couldn't hide a secret if her life depended on it. She's honest and kind and everything Melissa wasn't. Sometimes people ask me if I'm angry about what Melissa did. The truth is I'm not. I'm grateful. Grateful to Alex for helping me find the truth. Grateful to Patricia for fighting for me. Grateful to Judge Walsh for seeing through the lies. Most of all, I'm grateful that I found out who Melissa really was before I spent the rest of my life living a lie. Because sometimes the people closest to you know exactly how to hurt you the most. But if you're lucky, the people who truly care about you know exactly how to save you, and sometimes that's enough.